You ever look at a pile of parts and think, gee, I wonder what that sounds like? No? Just me? Anyone else? Anyways, today we're actually going to get to find out what my pile of parts sounds like. It may not sing like Freddie Mercury or be as smooth as Kenny G, but this is my pile of parts and I wanted to know what it sounded like. Welcome to Today I Fixed. So, late one night I was struck with inspiration. Hey, you've got a lot of guitar parts laying around. Why don't you just put one together out of all the guitar parts you have here? And I said, oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. And so that's this. This is a guitar assembled only of parts that I have in my house. Aside from new strings. I had to get new strings because I didn't have strings. So everything you're going to see me put under this guitar, I had on hand for free. Free. However you want to, if you want to, free being I had it from past interactions with things and people. And the first thing that we're going to start with is putting all the hardware on it, so then I have a good base. After I get all the electronics on, I can just throw strings on it. So, starting with the hardware, we're going to put the bridge on first, which super easy. At least the top part of the bridge is super easy. It's got 6 holes in the top of it where you're going to put 6 screws. 6 screws, 6 holes. And if you look really closely, let's see, focus on it, please. There you go. Okay, if you look really closely, you can see that there's an angle on this. So when you tighten these screws down, the screw down, it'll be flat up against something. I'll try and show it better once it's on there. It'll be flat like that. And if you tighten the screw too much, it'll do this, and then your bridge will be sticking up off of the body. Now that I have all of them in, you can see it. It is up because I have the screws too tight. All I'm gonna do is back that screw off, and I'm looking down here from the side. Just gonna back the screws off one at a time. I need to back all of them off where they're all loose. To adjust these screws, I'm going to do them one by one, by hand, until it picks up and then sets it right back down. I want the screw to just barely pick up and then back it off until it's sitting flat. And I'll go ahead and finish all of these up and then come back. Then, after you put the bridge on, you have to come to the back side. You want to hook what I'm calling the spring tree up. But first, I'm going to run this. Where's the hole? There it is. I'm going to run the ground cable up to the top. And then I will explain what that cable is for later. But right now we're just gonna put the hardware on it, and I'll explain it later. There are 2 screws that go into this to hold it back. And before we tighten these down, I'm going to go ahead and throw my 3 springs on it. And then after that, we just tighten it down to feel. You tighten it down until the bridge feels tight enough, or basically this is a balancing act between string tension and how hard you want to have to press to get the trim to move. And I normally go pretty tight because it makes it a lot more stable, and I don't mind having to press the trim just a little bit harder. Next, we're going to go ahead and throw in our tuners, and this is going to be a little rough because I don't have the proper Fender style tuners on hand because I've stolen these ones for something, obviously. So I'm going to drill a hole for the screw and then go ahead and get all of these thrown on. And when picking the drill bit for the screw, you want a drill bit that is just smaller than the threads. You don't want it bigger than the threads, or else it will not actually grab into the wood. So I'm trying to find one that is just smaller to give me enough room to put the screw in, but not make it too tight or too big. Another thing, when you're drilling the holes, you want to make sure it is as aligned as you can get it. I'm going to just kind of eyeball it. There is ways to measure, and you can obviously take straight edges. I don't exactly have one on hand, but you can take straight edges and put all of them in, and then tighten the bolts on the backside and then drill the holes, which is the correct way to do it. You know what? I'm going to do it the right way. All right. So just so I can get the screw holes aligned perfectly and all of the tuners perfectly aligned where they're supposed to be, I'm going to go ahead and put all of the tuners in and put all of the bolts holding them in place just snug enough to where they don't move if I, or they move if I like want them to move, but they don't move if, like, they don't just move on their own. They're not loose enough to where they move on their own, but they're tight enough that I can adjust them. Okay, so now that I've got all of them snug, I'm going to take a straight edge. In this case, I'm going to just use the back plate, and I'm going to press it up against all the tuners and make sure they're all aligned how I want them. So they're not leaning one way or the other. They're all as straight as I can get them. One last visual inspection before drilling the holes. All right. Everything looks good to me. Now for depth, you don't want to go as far as to poke through the headstock, but you want to go deep enough to where you have the shank of the screw all the way in. Six perfectly drilled holes. And now you just go ahead and throw the screws in. And the last thing to go on is the string tree. All the string tree does is hold your B and E strings down so they're not sticking up so high when you, because if you draw a straight line from your nut to the top of the tuner, it sits way up here. Let's see if I got this thing long enough. It's something along the lines of that. And what the string tree does is bring that down so then you're not having strings that are hanging way up here that are easier to bump into and mess your tuning up if you're playing a song or something like that. It also just looks better. Now the last thing that I'm changing that is mechanical on the guitar, or I consider mechanical, is the strap buttons. I'm changing them out for this locking style so then I can have a nice locking strap on this guitar. And all you do for these is just take one out and replace it with the other. And I can go ahead and take these and stick them back in a parts bin. So then I can use them on a later guitar. Maybe we'll see them later on a different guitar that I build out of parts that I have here at my house. And these, I will show you what we do with these later. It's pretty obviously they just go in your strap. So all we need to start on the wiring is the pickguard and the pickups and electronics that we want to start with. First, I normally like to take the electronics and figure out which ones I'm using, because as you see, there's more than 3 pickups sitting here. I just didn't know which ones I wanted to use. So I put all of them out so then I had options. I know for sure that I want to use this one in the bridge position because it's my nicest pickup. It's an actual Epiphone marked with R. Not sure what that means. I will probably put something here as an explanation of what the R on Epiphone pickups means, but it's going in the bridge position for me, whether that is correct or not. And beyond that, there is the stock pickup from this wiring harness that I'm using. It goes also in the bridge position, so I'm probably not going to use it. And then I'm probably going to use one of these two. I think I will be using the one with the red cable because red is cool. and I just don't know what it sounds like, so we're gonna find out. So first step is getting the wiring harness untangled. Getting these zip ties out of the way. You want the harness untangled because we will be desoldering any place that the pickups go to in this harness, which we actually want to take note of where all of the pickups positives go. So you want to make sure you remember which pickup goes to which. And in this case, the one with the yellow wire is marked M for middle. So we know that this yellow wire is the middle. Pretty easy to understand which one's which. So in this case, I'm just going to mark the one wire for the neck, which is this one here on the right. We're going to put a little mark above it so we know that is the neck pickup. And then obviously we've got neck, middle, and bridge. So we know that this is the top of the guitar and the bottom of the guitar in this order. And I will go ahead and get these desoldered so we can put the right pickups in place. May not be the easiest thing to see. And try not to burn myself. Desolder that one. Also, now that I've said all of that, I remembered I wanted to keep the middle pickup from this original set. So we are going to keep the yellow wire attached, and all we're going to do is desolder the two white wires. So we've got the positives for both of the pickups we don't want removed. All we need to do now is desolder the ground. All that's left is to remove the grounds from the pickups, and they are all three soldered here. So I'm just going to remove this big blob and separate out my ground so that I can make sure to keep the middle pickups ground in place. And in this case, I like to kind of tug on the wire that I actually want to remove so that I make sure to keep it, so that it actually has pressure to come off. And I don't want to lose the original ground for the rest of the circuit, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that back on. So now that we have the pickups removed, I'm actually going to put all of the electronics on the Pickguard so then I have an easier time looking at what the wiring is and where I want to put everything. All right, now that we've got those desoldered, I'm going to go ahead and put them on the Pickguard. But first, we have a peel to peel off. Let me see if I can get this better in frame. Whew, that is a beautiful looking Pickguard. I'm excited. Okay. So, now we're going to put the pickups in it. Before you put the pickups in, you want to make sure that your screws fit. And this one, it fits, but it's a little tight, as well as I need to countersink the hole so that the bolt head actually has a place to sit down in it, because right now you can actually see that it's sticking out a little bit in this case, and I want the screw to be able to sit perfectly flush, so I need to make the little V in there for the screw to sit in. And you don't actually need the drill to do this, you just need the correct size drill bit and your hand. You do not want to be super aggressive on this. You just want to take the drill bit and you kind of run around on the inside there. Okay, in this case, I am going to use the drill just to make it a little bit quicker. But when you use the drill, you want to be very, very, very gentle. All you're trying to do with that is make just enough room for the screw to actually go in. Now for the countersinking, I'm going to pick a drill bit that is the same width as the head of the screw, which I think that one is. And I'm not gonna put this one in the drill. I am just going to take my hand and kind of slowly carve it out until it is how I want it. Occasionally sticking the screw in to check the depth. That's still sticking out a little bit, so I'm just going to carve out a little bit more. And then after you get it as close as you want, you just go ahead and do it to all of them. Okay, now that that's done, I actually had to go back through and ream the holes out so that I could fit the screws back in because they had some dirt in them, or not dirt, they had some plastic leftovers, remnants from countersinking. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the pickups in now. Now, something of note, when you're putting in single coil pickups, they are not always directional, but I normally like to keep the bottom of the pickup, or this triangulated bit with the wires coming out, I normally like to keep that on the bottom of the pickup. And when putting springs and screws in, you can either put the screw in first and then put the spring on top, or just gently place the screw between the pickup and then put the screw up through it. The easiest way is to put the screw in first and then spring on top, something like this. See if I can show you this time. So kind of start the screw here on the bottom, put the spring on top, and then feed the screw the rest of the way through. And I normally like to use the screwdriver to push it the rest of the way and start it. The same rule of thumb normally goes for the humbucker style pickups as well, except for in cases where they have the adjustable ones. The adjustable pins, like the screw style pins, normally go outside. They aim away from the center. So on guitars where it's humbucker, the screws will normally be facing out. All right, now that these are in, now that we've got these off, I'm gonna show you why we have springs between the pickup and the pickguard. When you have the whole guitar assembled, the strings need to be at a correct height above the pickups or else they don't sound right. You want to dial in the tone for the pickup between the string height and all of that. And the spring keeps the pickup tight against the spring, so then every adjustment that you make, it doesn't just move. And it gives you the freedom to adjust up and down on there. Also, a little note, I didn't like how the screws were silver on these two pickups, so I went ahead and colored over them in Sharpie so they blend in just a little bit better. All that's left now for electronics-wise is to go ahead and throw the pots and the switch in. You also need to be very conscious of the direction of the switch, because if you put it in upside down, your pickups will be, when you flip the switch down, you won't get bridge pickup, you'll get neck pickup instead. And same as vice versa, if you're in the neck position, you'll get the bridge pickup. Also, with the potentiometers, you want to put the lock washer, which is this one with all the teeth in it, between the potentiometer and the pickguard so that it can actually lock in. And when you lock this down with the nut and washer, it doesn't have as much opportunity to move. I'm also going to go ahead and Sharpie on the screws and maybe the shaft of the switch. I just want this one to be more black hardware over silver hardware, although I want very light silver hardware touches on this one. So, in light of it not working the way I want it to, by design that I messed up, I'm gonna go ahead and put all of the wiring back to the way a normal Strat is wired, and then add this switch in as a bypass. Basically what it does is just give this pickup free rein to just go to the output. Basically, it's a bypass of all the electronics and just tells this to go, okay, I'm going straight to the output. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it real quick, and then I will tell you why it works. So the circuit I ended up putting in the guitar looks a little something like this. You've got your humbucker, single coil, and your humbucker. These aren't important, but we're gonna add them anyways for the sake of demonstration. All those go to ground, you've got your switch, and then you've got your volume knob. This one also goes to ground. This is your out to your speaker, so you've got a speaker here. And then this is where everything comes in from the switch. So you're out from your main 5-way switch. And then you've got, I'm not gonna draw these in, well, okay. So middle goes to here, and these are normally backwards, but for sake of demonstration, it'll be easier. So this one normally goes up to this, and this normally goes down to here, but I'm just gonna draw it here for now. That's how your wires go. And all that I've added extra that isn't regular Strat wiring is 2 wires, which add into this circuit, and a switch. I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he pointed out to me that this is a Dave Gilmour mod. I didn't realize that it was already used in other guitars, or someone else was already doing it, until after he pointed it out. I was like, well, dang it, I guess I didn't think of that as an original thought. But still really cool. You should definitely check it out. In theory, this should work just like any other Strat. Just neck and bridge, just middle and bridge, just bridge. Now, if I flip this switch, that turns the bridge on in all positions so that I have the option to always turn the bridge on or not. Normally, the only time I think I will ever use the bridge being on all the time is in this position where both humbuckers are on, and or this position where all pickups are on to give myself maybe a little bit of a volume boost or something like that. All right, that works. I'm gonna go ahead and pop a hole in the pickguard and do final assembly. Now that we've got everything on there, take a first look at the outcome here. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw some strings on it, and then we'll do a quick and dirty intonation job on it. And for this, I've chosen hybrid slinkies just because it is my preferred brand of string and preferred sizes. And before I even put them on, I could already tell that the saddles are all sitting way too low to get them to sit up on the bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and screw all of them up, make them a little taller, so when I go to throw these strings on, that they will be higher, closer to in adjustment. I've got them ballparked, so all there is now is to open the strings and get started. When you're stringing a Strat style guitar, your strings will go in through the back here. You want to make sure that they come up through the saddle. And you pull them up and you make sure it's nice and seated. And then insert the string. And my friend David taught me this a long time ago. You grab it here at the fret, or at the nut, pull it back to the first fret, and then I personally like to do you bend it up a little bit so that it can, it actually has something to grab onto, and then you grab your string winder or do it by hand. And we're not going for in tune yet, we're just going for the guitar has strings on it. I'm gonna go ahead and get all these thrown on here, and then I will come back and show you more things. Alright, I've got the strings all on, so I'm going to go ahead and go grab my tuner pedal and put it here on camera somewhere so that it can be seen. And then I will show how to intonate and get the strings at a good height. Alright, I've got the tuner set up, and I'm not going to go super crazy into detail on action or intonation or anything, but I am going to go ahead and set the action at more or less a good position and give you a quick tip or two on how to do that. You want to look down here from the side, and you're adjusting the 2 screws in the saddle here until you see it at whatever height you find desirable. And then you also want to test in it's buzzing ever so slightly on every fret, so I'm going to go ahead and raise that up. And you want to make sure that the saddle remains flat as possible. Still need to go up, and then I'm just going to go ahead and go do that for all of them. Alright, and just as a quick explanation as to what intonation is. So on an open string, we'll start with this string. We'll just use E as an example. So when starting with an open string, you've got E. You also want this to be E. But you see here, it's sharp. It is not exactly E. You want both the 12th fret and open to be E and to be in tune. So when you're intonating a guitar, all you're doing is adjusting the length of the string from here to here, or technically your overall string length is changing, but what you're really worried about is the length here and here, whether or not that is still in tune with E. And so right now it's sharp, and because it's sharp, we're going to take a screwdriver and put it in the screw on the back side of the saddle, and in this case it's sharp, so I'm going to loosen it just a little bit, make sure it actually moves just a hair. And then I'm gonna have to retune the string because it drops the whole string. Make sure it's in tune, and then check again. I think that's about as close as I want to get it for now, because as you go along with the strings, so you can do E, make sure it's in tune, but as you're adjusting all of the other strings, it will slowly and slightly change all of the rest of the strings' intonations. So you have to check one, go to the next. Check the first, go to the next, or adjust the next, look back at the first, make sure it's still close, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to go ahead and do all of that really quickly. All right, I've got it as close as I want to get with intonation for now. The only thing is I realize I made a slight explanation error. When adjusting for intonation, so you've got E here and an E here. If this E on the 12th fret is sharp, you actually want to lengthen the distance between the 12th fret and your saddle. So you have to tighten the saddle and bring it farther down to make this length longer. If you go shorter, it actually raises the note. But if you lengthen it, it lowers the note because, you know, longer string makes lower note. But I've got it as close as I want to get for now. All that's left is a playtest. So let's finally find out what this part spin guitar sounds like. So far it's working. I forgot a pick, hold on. I'm not so much surprised that it's working, we already tested it, but I'm more curious on how it sounds. That's the neck pickup. Neck and bridge, or neck and middle. Just middle. Middle and bridge. Just bridge. And I'm just playing up and down scale, but you know. And then I'm gonna put on a little distortion. Well, a little overdrive, not distortion. Okay, this specifically is with the up in the up position. I forget. I just built the thing and I already don't know. In the up position, the neck is on no matter what. So without neck. With neck. Well, I think it sounds pretty dang good. All that's left is to go ahead and get the strap set up. All we gotta do is take the bolts off of these, put them in the ends, and then throw the strap on. Real easy. Basically, For setting up strap locks, you just take the nut off, nut and washer, and then you want to make sure that the strap is facing the correct direction, which is out. You want the nub with the screw facing out. If I can get this in here. Sometimes they're a little tough, so you got to kind of give them a fight. All you want to do is make sure you get enough threads that you can get the washer and the nut. Sometimes you hold it down on both sides with your thumbs and you can get it just like that. And then I'll go ahead and tighten these with pliers, but I'm going to get the other one in first. All right, now I've got my pliers. And you just kind of boop. You want to snug it down, you want to squeeze the strap. The strap will be kind of trying to press outwards on it, but you want to squeeze down on it. Do that on both sides. To get the strap on, it's as easy as taking the slot, putting it over there, and then you pull out as you slide on. Super easy, and that's not coming off. And boom, it's done. Easy as that. One last thing after the strap, I forgot to put this on, so we're gonna go ahead and toss that on real quick. And that is how I built a guitar out of parts that I had laying around. I think it came out pretty good. I actually really love it. I have been staring at this thing for hours just because of how gorgeous it is. Anyways, if you liked the build, subscribe, maybe leave a like, maybe a comment. Gotta throw those in because, you know, the YouTube thing. On that note, good morning, good evening, and good night.